Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Center for Strategic and International Studies at the conclusion of a fascinating panel discussion on artificial intelligence and the launch of a new report, Artificial Intelligence in National Security, the importance of having an AI ecosystem. And the sponsor of that report was Thales North America, and the CEO, Alan Pellegrini, is joining us. Alan, thanks very much for the time.
Thanks, Vago.
So talk to us a little bit about why you guys sponsored this, the focus on AI. I mean, obviously, Thales has gone through its own transformation. You guys are in all of the, commercial aviation, electronics, radars, radios, command and control systems, but also becoming a cyber and IT powerhouse. You guys bought Guavas. You're in the process of acquiring Gemalto.
Exactly.
But talk to us a little bit about the importance of the report. And then I want to ask you about, hey, the new business strategy and how you guys intend to grow transatlantically in all of these markets.
Yeah, great. Happy to, Vago. So, we've been going through a digital transformation for the last, let's say, 4 years. From our perspective, that means putting emphasis on technologies that we know are going to disrupt or transform our core markets. As you say, satellites, aerospace, defense, security, transformation. Cybersecurity has been a big focus for us for the last few years. More recently, we've been turning our attention to artificial intelligence. We know that AI has applicability across all of our core businesses, and we have started to invest in the capability and resources to address a number of those use cases. But at the same time, we also know AI is part of a much broader topic that has large implications, and we wanted to be and help facilitate a conversation around those implications and those issues. And we thought it would be a good idea to work with CSIS on that type of a study. What is the role of government? What is the role of the broader ecosystem in AI? Let's address topics like ethical use of AI in addition to just the technology, because if we're going to be successful in transforming our businesses with artificial intelligence, we need to be able to address these more macro issues. So it was a good partnership to work with CSIS on that.
Talk to us a little bit about, and I'm sorry I didn't mention space, but of course you guys are also one of the world's leading space companies. Talk to us about how the business fundamentally changes, your strategy is changing. You've got some very, very sharp people working strategy both here and in Paris for the company. How does this, sort of fundamentally change as you guys expand into the Internet of Things, which is why the Gemalto deal is so important, and that's waiting European antitrust approval. The Guavas was also another important piece of this, to the point where almost half the company now is really a cyber computer IT company, as opposed to being some of its classical business units. Talk to us about how that's changing how you're going to do business on both sides of the Atlantic.
We feel that our continued investments in the area of security are going to change our businesses in a couple ways. One, it's continuing to bring more and more of the technologies that are going to help us ensure that everything we do, whether it's in space or whether it has to do with helping aircraft fly, is going to be absolutely secure. So Secured by Thales is foundational to our strategy. It's also evolving us in that many of the new business models, software as a service, for example, are fundamental within those businesses like Gemalto has. And that's going to help Thales as we continue to evolve our own business models away from, let's say, some of the more traditional large systems thinking only, and more towards very current kind of business models. So it's going to help us continue to evolve, in addition to being a foundational technology for all of our businesses in the future.
Let me ricochet off of the report for a second before I move on to a couple of other questions. What are some of the things that you've seen? Up on the chart, and the report sort of highlighted that unlike some of its adversaries, right, you always have kind of a Sputnik moment, right? I think a lot of the AI focus started years ago in the last administration, but there was this sense that even though we were starting on this, there wasn't as much focus, there wasn't enough policy thinking on it. Again, as you mentioned, the ethics of its application and its use, the skill sets. It was a great panel discussion, and a lot of it focused on actually, the contracting officers have to be better. Not everybody needs to be an engineer in the midst of this ecosystem. What are some of the things that you've seen organization, what are the areas you think there needs to be greater attention and focus on, whether it's on the contracting side of things, whether it's on the education side of the things and the human capital? There are friends of mine who always look at the billboards outside the NSA, looking for talent, on the cybercom side of things and not finding it fast enough. From your standpoint as a CEO who's serving both the commercial and defense markets, where are the weak points? Where are the areas that need greater focus from your perspective?
Yeah, great question, and I'm happy the panel really addressed the human element, because it is an area where we do see a weakness or a shortfall, in particular here in the U.S. For example, one of our investments in evolving a competent center for AI, we have now made in Montreal. Why Montreal? Well, we found it was an environment that the entire local ecosystem has rallied around. The local government in Quebec, academia in the area, they've attracted some big minds in AI, and they are putting in place programs that help companies like us now acquire that kind of AI talent. And I don't just mean the pure AI research, super big brain types of resources. I mean applied AI. It was a good discussion during the panel about it doesn't always have to be the smartest, but it does need to be people that understand how to apply this capability, a lot of which is open source now, to specific use cases or problems. So we found what Montreal was doing as an example was a great model, and we were making an investment in that area. I haven't, despite all of the money and investment going into Silicon Valley, I don't think we have the analogous kind of model yet. I've yet to see here in the US where we've seen partnerships between academia and industry on some regional scales that can really help companies like us scale up our capabilities in this area. So I'd really like to see some advances in this country along the lines of those same models. As the panel mentioned, Silicon Valley, while we have a significant presence around our cyber business, it is a very expensive place to be and to run businesses. And we want to develop some talent outside of that, the Silicon Valley area as well in the US. So I think the education, academia, partnerships with industry still have a ways to go here. And I think that starts at the very most foundational levels of education. It's been well written about some of the concerns that we have in the United States about the ranking on a world scale of the United States in areas like math and science. I think ultimately that's foundational to leading to, who are these people that are going to be our talent pool for AI and cyber and other technologies in the future here. So we're very active, as are many companies like us, in trying to help evolve STEM education. We got to start at the most basic level. We got to grow people that really have a passion for these types of technologies applied to some very exciting areas and national security.
Do you guys, I know the Gemalto deal, and I'm not trying to jinx it at all, is not yet approved, but you guys, Thales has always been very clever in how it's used acquisitions around the world to sort of bolster either core businesses or also get into new businesses. Do you guys expect to be spending and investing more over the long term in terms of merger and acquisition resources into bolstering this IT cyber data business that you guys are growing?
Well, I think M&A and investment is an important part of the overall Thales strategy. You mentioned a couple like Vormetric and Guavis, now Gemalto on our immediate horizon, that have been important investments for Thales. I think we will continue to look for strategic fits as we go forward. Of course, Gemalto is a very significant size acquisition for Thales, and we have a lot of work to do ahead of us once the deal is finally consummated. We also have an enormous amount of opportunity because it's a very complementary organization and set of talent to what Thales brings. So I think there's enormous opportunity in areas of business and joining our technologies for exploiting. And so we're very excited about that. But we'll continue to search, especially in areas like we just saw with the panel, areas that we consider foundational to our own digital transformation. And it turns out those areas are particularly focused in the U.S. So it puts our role here in North America and the U.S. kind of on the forefront. for helping to advance Thales in these important areas.
And does it change the focus of your innovation center as well? I mean, you guys a couple of years ago did a rather big rollout in terms of your innovation center to start developing technology here for the North American market, but also feed the company, which is the multi-domestic strategy to operate as a local company, whether in the UK, Australia, or elsewhere. How does it change your focus at the innovation center?
Well, I think from an innovation center perspective, our story has really evolved. And while we were fortunate for Thales in the U.S. to be on the forefront of some of our new activity with our Explorer organization, that and other efforts at Thales have now really morphed into a much more mature innovation model around what we call our digital factory, which has both the Paris and North American footprint in addition to Asia. And within our digital factories are where we are congregating expertise in data science and AI and UX, UI, full stack developers, where this talent can work with each of our businesses to very quickly prototype and bring product to market very fast, because it's a very dynamic, all of our markets are operating on a very dynamic scale right now. So I'd say the work we started a handful of years ago in the US around innovation has now blossomed into a much more foundational and mature set of organizations that Thales has and is committed to. And so, again, we're happy to be on the forefront and happy to have one of those centers here in North America.
I know you've got to go. Two quick questions. One, there's a lot of concern about transatlantic tensions. Thales is a French company, but it's operated in the United States for a very long period of time and also serviced national security needs for very many decades. Do you feel any back pressure at all that the company has French heritage, or from your standpoint, is it full steam ahead?
I think it's full steam ahead. I think we are particularly attentive and try to be in tune with the very dynamic U.S. Political environment and how that may impact relationships between our country and the U.S. and between our nations in general. That said, we haven't seen anything so fundamental that it's really impacted our way of doing business. And as we've gone through acquisitions, they've been readily approved by the U.S. government. The people that work within the key U.S. State Department and DoD and other organizations that are important to us, we think are operating in a very productive manner with international organizations, at least in our case. So we've been encouraged by that, and we certainly haven't been put off in any way from our commitment to the U.S. From a Thales perspective. It is still one of the markets that we consider very important for us to continue to invest in and grow in. It's part of our going global strategy for Thales, and so we'll continue to keep a very close eye and try to continue to strengthen our relationships with the U.S. government. Despite a lot of movement and action, it hasn't really been a deterrent to us.
And commercial, you guys are, commercial aviation is going in generational boom cycle. There are some who say that actually you have to go back to the dawn of the jet age and really mass commercial air travel to get a boom like this. You guys are a key player in the ecosystem globally. How's that business going? How much more growth do you see? It's very tough because the primes have a tendency of hammering even key suppliers like you guys, whether it's for in-flight entertainment, although that business has dramatically been changing. What are the challenges and the opportunities you see, especially when these delivery rates are getting that high, 52 aircraft for Boeing, even higher for Airbus on the single aisle?
Yeah, well, as you say, Vago, it's, we've benefited from, as the industry, from a strong commercial aviation market, which is one of our core civil business areas. We're fortunate to be a provider not just in the flight deck avionics side, but also in the cabin side, which has experienced even a bigger boom as more and more passengers want to be connected, in particular, and informed during flights, and we enjoy pretty strong market positions in both. Nonetheless, it's an industry that while growing does have increasing pressure, not just from the big OEMs that are, of course, trying to eke out their fair share of profits in this industry, but also because of disruptive technologies that will continue to create some tension and opportunities for new players, and we have to continue to be on the forefront and watch our guard. And that's why investments, including in areas like AI and cyber, are important not just for our national security aspirations, but also for our civil ambitions. If we can apply technologies like artificial intelligence to help give us and our customers a competitive advantage, for example, in preventative maintenance on an airplane, then we think we can continue to stay on the forefront, continue to enjoy the steady growth that we've had in commercial aviation as one example, but also in areas like ground transportation and commercial space as well. So it requires us to be able to keep up with very young, exciting companies, to be able to partner effectively with them, and that's why being engaged in that ecosystem and also being engaged with organizations like we saw here today with CSIS and really understanding the bigger, broader picture and issues is essential for us, and it's a direction we intend to continue to stay on.
And I want to ask you a little bit about innovation. Patrice Cain, the CEO, Thales CEO, has talked about the need to be more agile. Thales is a company that has tremendous technology, sometimes can move fast, but sometimes can also have really, a little bit of a very methodical, deliberate process that goes behind it. From your standpoint, what's the key to speed? You know, everybody talks about innovation. What are the keys to speed, both in the commercial and the defense sector, which, as you said, is moving at faster cycle rates and is becoming more and more competitive, whether from a threats perspective or even from a commercial disruptive technology perspective?
Exactly, I mean, because you hit the nail on the head. We face the competing forces of technology moving at an exponential pace, yet we deal with very complex, important problems, including national security issues, where people's lives are at stake. So moving fast is great when technology is moving fast, but we also have to be very in tune with the consequences of moving fast. Now, we have embraced a philosophy around being able to quickly define, working with our customers, which is very key, our end users, and putting together what we consider minimal viable products in a very, very short time frame, 3 to 6 month kind of time frame, that we can now go to market with our customers to try these new capabilities out. And so that we believe we are accelerating our ability to bring product to market through this concept. We've set up our digital factories around the world to be a catalyst or facilitator, to work very closely with each of our business lines at Thales to help them solve very specific use cases or problems using this methodology. And within our digital factories, we bring and coalesce a group of talent that we believe is kind of uniquely positioned to be able to help our businesses do that. So it's where we can congregate user experience and user interface professionals, where we can put together cyber expertise and AI expertise and full stack developers and cloud experts and mobility experts, all in a place that they can work hand in hand with leaders from our businesses that know their customers, know their market, to help them solve very specific problems and bring minimal viable products into the industry very quickly. And we are starting to have success with that. And we do that in a methodical way, not a slow way, but we identify many, many areas around Thales where we think innovation is going to be key. And we focus on those problems, and we get our business lines and our factories together to go bring product to market. And we're having some nice success right now, and I'm happy to say in North America, we're one of the on the front lines for that kind of work, and we're addressing some very exciting new initiatives, including areas like management of unmanned vehicle traffic management, which of course is going to be a big issue for this country and all countries going forward. So, I'm very excited by the pace at which Thales is now able to go from idea to something a real user can deal with.
Alan Pellegrini, CEO of Thales North America. Alan, it's always a pleasure. Best of luck on the Gemalto deal, and look forward to talking to you again, especially when you guys are trying to do the whole merger integration.
Yeah, thanks so much, Vago. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.